The moment he placed the ring on the cold glass counter, it felt like he was burying the last piece of his past. That thin circle of gold had once held promises, laughter, and a future he believed was unbreakable. Now it lay between survival and surrender, between feeding his child and holding on to memories that no longer paid the bills. For a single father with empty pockets and a heart already bruised by loss, this was not just a sale. It was a quiet goodbye to the man he used to be. If you believe that kindness still exists in this world, that second chances can change lives, and that even the smallest act of compassion can create miracles, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ethan had never imagined his life shrinking to this point. There was a time when mornings smelled of fresh coffee and laughter, when his wife's voice filled their small apartment with warmth, and when the future felt wide open. Then illness came like a thief in the night, stealing her slowly, painfully, and leaving behind hospital bills thicker than any book he had ever read. By the time she was gone, the savings were gone too, and what remained was a quiet apartment, a little boy who asked too many questions, and a ring that still carried her touch. Ethan became a single dad overnight, learning how to braid hair, pack lunches, and hide his own fear behind tired smiles. Work became a battlefield. He took whatever jobs he could find, late-night warehouse shifts, early morning deliveries, anything that paid enough to keep the lights on for another week. Sleep became a luxury he couldn't afford. His son, Noah, was only 6, too young to understand why dinners became simpler, why the heater stayed off longer in winter, or why his father stared at bills like they were written in another language. Ethan learned to count coins, to stretch meals, and to swallow pride. But there came a week when even swallowing pride wasn't enough. The eviction notice arrived quietly, slipped under the door like a warning from fate. Ethan read it twice, then a third time, hoping the words would rearrange themselves into something kinder. They didn't. That night, he sat on the edge of the bed while Noah slept, holding the ring in his palm. It was warm from his skin, familiar, heavy with memory. He remembered sliding it onto his finger on their wedding day, the way his wife had smiled through tears. Selling it felt like erasing her. But losing their home felt worse. Survival demanded sacrifice, and love sometimes meant letting go. The jewelry store was bright and polished, a place that smelled of money and certainty. Ethan felt out of place the moment he stepped inside, his worn jacket and tired eyes clashing with glass cases filled with diamonds. He placed the ring on the counter with shaking hands, explaining its age, its story, its worth. The appraiser listened politely, examined it carefully, and named a price that felt painfully small compared to everything that ring had meant. Ethan nodded anyway. Pride had already been stripped away by hunger and fear. He signed the papers, closed his eyes for a moment, and let the ring slide out of his life. What Ethan didn't notice was the woman standing a few feet away, watching quietly. Clara Vale was known in business circles as a billionaire with a sharp mind and an unbreakable will. She owned companies across continents and carried herself with the confidence of someone who had conquered the world. But beneath the tailored elegance was a past marked by loss. Years ago, she had lost her own husband suddenly, and since then, she had learned to read grief on others like a second language. The way Ethan's shoulders sagged, the way his fingers hesitated before letting go of the ring, told her everything. Clara didn't interrupt. She waited, observed, and listened as the transaction ended. When Ethan turned to leave, something inside her refused to stay silent. She followed him outside, the afternoon light spilling across the street like a chance moment. She didn't offer pity. She offered curiosity. She asked about the ring, about why it mattered so much, about the boy he mentioned when he spoke to the clerk. Ethan, exhausted and emotionally raw, found himself answering. He spoke about Noah, about bills, about losing his wife, and about the quiet fear that sat in his chest every night. He didn't ask for help. He didn't even expect understanding. He simply told the truth. Clara listened, and in that listening, a decision formed. She saw not a man asking for charity, but a father fighting with everything he had. Before they parted, she gave him her card and told him to call if he needed work. Ethan thanked her politely, certain it was just another kind gesture that would fade into nothing. People like her didn't change the lives of people like him. Or so he thought. Days passed, heavy and uncertain. Ethan managed to delay the eviction by selling a few more possessions, each sale cutting deeper than the last. Then, one evening, his phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. It was Clara. She offered him a job, not a temporary favor, but a real opportunity. One of her companies needed someone reliable, someone who understood responsibility and resilience. She didn't promise miracles. She promised a chance. Ethan accepted without hesitation. The change didn't come overnight, but it came steadily. The job paid more than any he had held before. It came with stability, benefits, and dignity. Ethan moved Noah into a small but clean apartment closer to school. For the first time in months, he slept through the night. He started smiling again, not the forced kind, but the real kind that reached his eyes. Clara checked in occasionally, not as a savior, but as someone who genuinely cared. She never mentioned the ring. She never made him feel small. Months later, on a quiet afternoon, Clara invited Ethan to her office. He expected another work-related meeting. Instead, she handed him a small box. Inside was the ring. His ring. The same scratches, the same warmth, the same history. Clara had bought it back the same day he sold it. She told him she believed some things should never be lost, only protected until the right moment. Ethan couldn't speak. Tears came freely, unashamed. In that moment, he understood that survival didn't have to mean erasing the past. Sometimes it meant carrying it forward with strength. Life continued to improve, not because of sudden wealth, but because of restored hope. Ethan advanced at work, driven not by fear anymore, but by purpose. Noah grew lighter, laughing more, dreaming bigger. The ring stayed where it belonged, not as a symbol of loss, but as a reminder of love that still guided him. Clara didn't disappear after her kindness. She became a quiet presence, supporting programs for single parents within her companies, creating opportunities instead of handouts. As the years passed, Ethan often thought about that day in the jewelry store. About how close he had been to losing more than a ring. About how one moment of attention from a stranger had changed the direction of his life. He learned that dignity can survive even in desperation, and that kindness, when given without conditions, can rebuild entire futures. If this story is touching your heart right now, if you feel that lump in your throat or that quiet warmth in your chest, please take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Before this story ends, I have one special request. Please comment below with the word hope if you believe that even in the darkest moments, life can still surprise us with light. Ethan's life didn't become perfect. There were still hard days, still memories that hurt, still moments when grief whispered quietly. But he no longer faced them alone, and he no longer believed he was invisible. From the moment he sold his wedding ring to survive, to the moment a billionaire saw his worth, his journey became proof that compassion doesn't need grand speeches or cameras. Sometimes, it only needs one person willing to see another human being. And sometimes, that is enough to change everything.